Okay, we'll continue on with Mark chapter 14. The plot to kill Jesus. After 2 days it was the Passover, and the feast of unleavened bread, and the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by trickery and put him to death. The cunning craftiness of deceitful lust, deception. They were going to lie in attempt to get the Lord. That's what the law will do to you. You'll lie, you'll try and trick, and put him to death. You want to put people to death. That's why the law was a ministry to death, the Mosaic law. But they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar of the people. Verse 3, and being in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper. Now this would have infuriated the Pharisees and the Sadducees, mixing with lepers. As he sat at the table, a woman came, having an alabaster flask of costly oil and of spikenard. Then she broke the flask and poured it on his head. But there were some who were indignant among themselves, and said, why was this fragrant oil wasted? For it might have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor. And they criticized her sharply. So these people were interested in the value of the product more than the use of the product. But Jesus said, let her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always, and whenever you wish you may do them good. But me you do not have always. She has come and done what she should and could. She has come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. Assuredly I say to you, wherever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told as a memorial to her. Well, it's a shame that it's not shared as regularly as it should be. Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went out to the chief priests to betray him to them. And when they heard it, they were glad, and promised to give him money. So he sought how he might conveniently betray him. So you've got people deceiving, betraying. It's closing in on the Lord Jesus Christ now. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover lamb, his disciples said to him, where do you want us to go and prepare that you may eat the Passover? And he sent out 2 of his disciples and said to them, go into the city and meet a man. And a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. Wherever he goes in, say to the master of the house, the teacher says, where is the guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples? Then he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. There make ready for us. So his disciples went out and came into the city, and found it just as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. In the evening he came to the 12. Now as they sat and ate, Jesus said, assuredly I say to you, one of you who eats with me will betray me. And they began to be sorrowful and say to him one by one, it is I. And another said, no, it is I. He answered and said to them, is it one of the 12 who dips with me in this dish? The Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had never been born. Judas Iscariot, of course. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them and said, take, eat, this is my body. Then he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. And he said to them, this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many. Now this is the first mention, viewers, of the new covenant. Now some scripts omit the word new. but in this particular version, the New King James Version, the word knew is included. Now this is the first part after all the ministry and miracles and demon casting out and messages that he was trying to get across to the people about the closing down of the Mosaic Law and the introduction to the new Passover, the new covenant I should say, not Passover. This is the first time Jesus mentions about the new covenant. And he sent out two of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the city, and a man will meet you following a pitcher." So his disciples went out and came to the city and found it just as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. In the evening he came with the 12. Now as they sat and ate, Jesus said, "Assuredly I say to you, one of you, each of me, will betray me, Judas Iscariot." And they began to be sorrowful and to say to him one by one, "Is it I?" And another said, "Is it I?" Now I'll tell you why this was going on. Because all the disciples knew what Judas was doing. They used Judas as a scapegoat to try and get the Romans to push Jesus Christ to the point where he would wave his arm and annihilate them. But that didn't happen. He answered and said to them, "It is one of the 12 who dips with me in the dish. The Son of Man indeed goes as it is written of him, but woe to the man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had been never born." So, as they were eating, Jesus took the bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." Then he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. And he said to them, "This is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many. Surely I say to you, I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vine, until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom." And some say, "with you in the kingdom." Some translations. And when they sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee." Peter said to him, Even if all were made to stumble, yet I would not stumble, yet it will not be." Jesus said to him, "Surely I say to you that today, even this night, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But he spoke more vehemently, If I have to die with you, I will not deny you." And they all said likewise. Then they came to a place which was named Gethsemane. See, they all expected Jesus to wipe out the Romans with his power. And he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took Peter, James and John with him, and he began to be troubled and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch." He went a little farther and fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible the hour might pass from him. And he said, "Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup away from me, nevertheless not I will, but you will." Then he came and found them sleeping and said to Peter, "Simon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. For the spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak." Again he went away and prayed and spoke the same words. And when he returned, he found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy, and they did not know what to answer. Then he came the 3rd time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? It is enough. The hour has come. Behold, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." And immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Now his betrayer had given them a signal, saying, "Whoever I kiss, he is the one. seize him and lead him away safely. As soon as he had come, immediately he went up to him and said to him, Rabbi, Rabbi, and kissed his cheek. When they laid their hands on him and took him, he and one of those who stood drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Now, this is what I was talking about here. Then they laid hands on Christ and took him. And one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. The disciples believed that Christ was going to fight back, but they got it wrong. That's why they had swords. After everything Jesus had done and taught, these guys took swords. That shows you that they were in a different mindset to what they thought would be carried out by Christ. Then Jesus answered and said to them, Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to take me? I was daily with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me, but the scriptures must be fulfilled. Then they all forsook him and fled. Now a certain young man followed him, having a linen cloth thrown around his naked body, and the young men laid hold of him. And when he left the linen cloth, and he fled from them naked. And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests, the elders, and the scribes. But Peter followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. And he sat with the servants and warmed himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and all the council sought testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but found none, for many bore false witness against him, but their testimonies did not agree. Then some rose up and bore false witness against him, saying, We heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made without hands. But not even then did their testimony agree. And the high priest stood up in the midst and asked Jesus, saying, Do you answer nothing? What is it these men testify against you? But he kept silent and answered nothing. Again the high priest asked him, saying to him, Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? Are you the Messiah? Jesus said, I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power, coming with the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, What further need do we have of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. Then some began to spit on him, and to blindfold him, and to beat him, and to say to him, Prophesy. And the officers struck him with the palms of their hands. Now as Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came. And when she saw Peter warming himself, she looked at him and said, You also were with Jesus of Nazareth. But he denied it, saying, I neither know or understand what you are saying. And he went out on the porch, and the rooster crowed. And the servant girl saw him again, and began to say, Those who stood by, This is one of them. But he denied it again. And a little later those who stood by said to Peter again, Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean, and your speech shows it. And then he cursed and swore, I do not know this man of whom you speak. And a second time the rooster crowed. Then Peter called to mind the word that Jesus had said to him, Before the so on and so forth, the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. And when he thought about it, he wept. Well, I don't know I can't comment too much on that. I think it speaks for itself, but goodness me, it's gotten ugly. And now we're really getting into the nitty-gritty, where the Old Testament's going to close and the New Testament will be started when the Lord Jesus Christ gets crucified. All hell is breaking loose for the Lord Jesus Christ. And we'll continue on with that in our next session. Thank you for joining me, and bye for now. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watch it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.